final class, your third and final class. Now, this class may be one that you refer to again and again and again because it's going to have exercises on it. It's also going to have questions that may come up as you work through the first couple of videos where you're trying to figure out what your abilities are, and you're also trying to put together your daily practice. And as you do these things, and as you go through the practices that were set out for you in the last two videos, there are going to be questions that come up. And so I've kind of tried to give you the answers so that you have, when you come across these things or you have questions, you're able to refer to this video to give you some of the answers. I'm going to start with a few exercises that might be helpful. And really what you're doing is you're trying to they really are exercises because you're trying to kind of use your ability, skill set in a way that will kind of enhance and make using them easier for you so that you'll get a feel for what it's going to feel like to get messages. So we're going to start with the seer. If you feel that you're a seer, the exercise that would be really good for you to try and to do every day or every other day as you go through your practice is to lay down or sit down in a comfortable space where you're not going to be disturbed, and get comfortable and get relaxed, whether that means deep breathing or, however, relaxing your muscles, whatever you do to kind of get relaxed. Hopefully in your daily practice, you've kind of figured out what works for you. And then what you're going to do is you're going to paint a picture in your mind. An easy one is a beach, because everyone's been to the beach, but it can be a lake, it could be an amusement park, it could be anything that you feel very, very familiar with and something that kind of speaks to you. So if you're doing a beach, let's just say you're doing a beach, picture the beach in your mind, but paint the picture extremely detailed. See everything about it. See the waves and the rhythm of the waves and how the wind is blowing the waves and how it hits the rocks and how, does it have white sand or darker sand or does it have little pebbles? Paint as clear a picture as you can of a beach. And then once you've got that, add sound. Remember what the sounds of the beach sound like and try to add sound to your picture. And then once you've got that, add the smells, the smell of the seawater, the smell of, that's the smell of the sand and, the sea air, and make a complete a picture as possible in that order. And what you've done is you've shown yourself what it's going to be like to receive messages if you're a seer. That is how you'll receive them. It's going to be, your guides are going to use you as the instrument. And so rather than seeing something outside of you or hearing something outside of you, it will be in your mind. It will feel like it's you. But what happens when you get a message is that it's painted much quicker. So as you painted that picture and it took time to kind of make the picture in your mind, what will happen when you receive a message is it will be much faster. And so what you'll kind of have to do is remember what you've just seen and hold on to it. And so that's what you're doing. And the same with hearing. It's not that you're hearing it with your ears. You're hearing it almost as in your mind's ear, a memory of what a sound sounds like. So that's what it will feel like. And same with smells. It's the memory of the smell. It's not you're actually smelling it. It will feel like that because, because it's the memory of the smell, but you can see how real those things become when they're used effectively in your mind. And so what you're trying to do is warm up those tools that will be used to communicate with you, with your guides. Now, if you are a feeler, a really great exercise is to go to different locations and see how the feeling changes. See if you get any kind of physical differences. For example, if you go into a cemetery, what is the feeling there? What does it feel like? And try to put names to it that are emotional. Does it feel sad? Does it feel lonely? Does it feel peaceful? What does it feel like? Try to put a name to it. And then the same thing, and look for chills or for lightheadedness or anything like that that might accompany it. And then also when you're doing that, see if any pictures come to mind, because although you're a feeler, just like any other ability, whether you're a seer, a feeler, a knower, they're going to kind of blend together, and you're going to kind of at some point kind of bleed into the other abilities, because that's just how it works. And so be aware if there's any name or any picture that pops into your head. There may be. But for now, as you're developing this particular skill set, get the feeling and try to put a name to it. And same with feeling any physical symptoms that may come over you: a chill, lightheadedness, dizziness, a warmth, sometimes a tightening of the chest, or any kind of physical things that may happen. Just be aware of them, but you're mainly looking for the emotion, the emotional attachment to the space, the emotional name for the space. And then go to somewhere like a church and see what it feels like there. Does it feel, maybe it feels cold, maybe it feels a little bit spooky or something, but try to put a name to what you're feeling. And then try a different location. Go to a room in your house and see what it feels like. And you're really just kind of warming up that tool that your guides will be using, and that is what it will feel like. You will get these feelings that kind of come over you energetically, and then as a reader, or as if you're getting the messages for yourself, you kind of have to put a name to it. What am I feeling? What is the name of this feeling that I'm having? This feels like anxiety. This feels like worry. Get used to kind of managing and understanding the connection between energy and emotion. Okay? The last exercise is for the knowers, and this one is called page 17. And basically what you're going to do, and again, you're just warming up these skills of this kind of knowing. So, and this kind of like intuitive knowing, we'll call it. So what you're going to do is take any book, any magazine, pamphlet, whatever, that has at least 17 pages in it, and that maybe you haven't looked at, or it's been a long time since you've looked at it. Any kind of book, but make sure that it has pictures. Hold it in your hands and ask yourself, what is on page 17? And see what comes to mind. What kind of knowing feelings come to mind? What is on page 17? Try to grasp onto the first thing that comes to you. If this is too much of kind of an overwhelming exercise where too many things could come to mind, or too many knowing feelings could come to mind, try yes or no questions. Is there a lot of the color red on page 17? See what comes to mind, yes or no. Usually knowers are quite good at yes and no questions, guessing, that kind of thing, because they just have an instinctive knowing. Okay, so those are the exercises that you can use, and you can do them again and again and again. And it doesn't really matter if you feel like you've gotten really good at them. They really are just kind of a warm-up technique to get you kind of in touch with that part of you, so that when your guides start to connect with you, start to give you messages, you'll be able to kind of hone in on what that skill feels like. Because that's what you're trying to get, is a feel for it. What does it feel like to get a message? And all of those exercises within those whether you're a seer, a feeler, or a knower, that is what it feels like to get a message, is what the exercises that I just laid out for you, okay? In that respect. But be aware of secondary abilities that come, because a lot of times, I'm definitely an empath first. Feelings and emotions I'm very sensitive to, but I got a lot of clairvoyant things right away. I got some knowing things right away. So don't shut off anything else that may come in. The most important thing is to allow it to come in, be open and allow it to come in, and to be patient. Because your guides are going to try to start getting through to you right away. They're going to try. So until you actually feel it, just kind of allow and keep allowing. And if you feel like I haven't gotten anything yet, just be patient. You will get it. But I guarantee you that it may not be exactly how you think it is. We have an idea of how these things should happen or what they should feel like. And it can be so different. Even day to day, it can be different because you're different, or your energy's different, or you're not as connected, or you're really connected. So just be aware that it can change, and to be sensitive to what may or may not be coming in, and just allow it to come in. Allow it to come in. And we'll get into more of that as we go through our questions, okay? So let's get into our questions, and let's go. Okay, so how do I know if I've received messages? This is a tricky one, but I'll tell you this. If you think you have, you probably have. If you think, was that a message? Take it as a message. And the reason is because so much of this is built on faith. There is a faith element that comes into this. And that can be hard because we want to know for sure. That's part of this, part of the classes. I want to know for sure, this is my guides. But what you're trying to do is you're building communication, and you're building a relationship as well, a different kind of relationship than you've had before. Maybe you feel things every once in a while, but being able to get a call and response kind of relationship, that's different. So if you think you've gotten a message, take it as a message. Take it as a message and thank your guides, and then go on to the next thing. Because the more you can do that, the more you can just kind of accept it as it comes in, the more your guides will there'll be a kind of there'll be a flow to it. There'll be a flow that's able to come in, and there'll be a flow that starts to come in every time you ask a question. And this is very important. So if you're blocking everything, if you're saying, well, I don't think that was a message, I don't think that was, then it's going to be much harder, because so much of this is allowing things to come in and not judging them, not taking them trying not to put a label and name to everything, allowing them to come in, and then accepting it, say thank you, and move on to the next thing. And what you'll find is that you'll just become more and more sensitive to the information that you get. And again, it will change day to day. Some days you'll be really connected and you'll feel every little thing. And other days it will be less so. Maybe you're just not as connected, or maybe something's going on in the world that is just making it more difficult. But the more you can kind of get that flow coming in, the better. So if you think you've gotten a message, accept it as a message. Okay? All right. Okay. The next question is, I haven't received any messages. What could be wrong? Well, I just named one of the things that could be wrong. You could just kind of be having an off day. It happens. It happens to all of us. So the other thing that could be happening is that you may be blocking in some way. And this is a very personal thing. And so go back and think of anything, if you're allowing spirit in, there's a real trust that has to be there. And so go back and see if there's any old religious tropes that you're holding on to, any fears, any anxieties that you might be holding on to, any trust issues that you may have just with yourself, thinking maybe you don't trust yourself to know. But you really need to explore these things and go back and figure it out, and then release it. Just let it go. When you hit on something and you think, well, maybe I am a little bit afraid, or I'm afraid I can't do this and I'm going to fail at this, let that go, because there isn't really a right or wrong way to do this. It really is so individual. And your guides will keep trying. They're not going to just not communicate with you. They will communicate with you. So just keep trying. And if you find that you're blocked or you feel like something's blocking, you're just not feeling anything, getting anything, go back and look at any kind of fears or worries that may be stopping you from allowing things to come in. There could be lots of reasons, but it really is kind of a dig down deep. Go back to childhood. Go back to any, maybe you made mistakes in your life and you think, I'm not good at making decisions or deciding things, so I can't, I think I'll be bad at this or whatever. Try to kind of put those things to rest, and really just recognizing that it's there is enough, but also just release it and allow things to come in. You don't want to be kind of grasping at things, trying really, really hard. It really is an opening up. You're opening up and you're allowing things to come in. Okay? All right. Okay, how do I validate the message I've received? One way you can validate it is with your secondary ability. So, for example, you consider yourself a knower. So you decide to do page 17. Okay, you try to do this exercise. You ask yourself, is there a lot of blue on page 17? And you think your instinct is no, and then you see green. So pay attention to that. Just pay attention to it. You don't have to, switch and be like, oh, I guess I'm a clairvoyant. You don't have to do that, but just be aware of it, that may be there. A lot of ones for me is I'll see a picture and I'll get a feeling with that accompanies it. So you can use your secondary abilities to validate. That may happen right away. That may be something that comes later. So that's just one way to validate. Another way to validate is to use a tool, to use tarot cards, or to use crystals, or to use a pendulum. Especially if you are a knower, a pendulum is a great tool because usually you're very good at yes or no questions, and that's what you can ask a pendulum is yes or no questions. So that is a great tool to use. But anything you feel kind of connected to, you could even use things that are in astrology, that kind of thing, or numerology. Use a tool that kind of you feel a little connected to, that will give you that sense of, okay, there's something else telling me, yes, this was the message. In my personal readings, a lot of times I will use cards. Part of it is to move it along, because sometimes I won't know where to go next, so I'll ask my guides to let me know through the cards. And part of it is because in a reading, I have a time limit. For me, I like to take my time. Sometimes it will take me days to get a message. I'm very patient that way, and I can't stress that enough, to be patient. But if you really need an answer quickly, or you're working as you decide to do this as for your living or to work with clients, then having a tool that you can use, that you can turn to kind of either move things along, or to just give you that validation if you're not quite sure and you don't have the time to figure out, I can't sit here for another 30 minutes, so I need to know if this is correct. And so use the cards for that. And again, pick a tool that you feel connected to. There's something about it that kind of speaks to you, or something that just has kind of always interested you. And if you like cards, but you don't really like the tarot deck, there's a million tarot decks to use. You don't have to use the Rider-Waite deck that you see all the time. There's all kinds of oracle decks and angel cards and all kinds of things. I use my surrender cards. So find cards that really kind of speak to you, and that at least pull you in aesthetically, or pulls you in some way, and use that tool to validate until you get more comfortable, or until your secondary abilities start to kind of reveal themselves. Okay, so the next question is, how do I decipher the messages I receive? And this goes back to this is one of the hardest things to do when you're dealing with your abilities. At least I believe it is as a reader, and it is on your own as well. If you're just reading for yourself or for your family, for your pet, deciphering the message is really an act of, it is an act of trusting yourself to kind of know. Your guides will speak to you in ways that your guides will speak to you in ways that are very personal to you. And so, for example, my guides showed me a lot of television and movies. And because I knew the movie or the television show, I could kind of get the overall feeling or message that they were trying to convey. But sometimes deciphering can be difficult. And in that, you just kind of have to trust it and hope that you are getting what they're trying to tell you. So, for example, in a reading, I could see something like a fire engine. So I might think, oh, you're a firefighter. And so I'll ask, are you a firefighter? And they'll say, no, but my house just burned down. or we just had the firefighters here because I had a fire in the kitchen. So sometimes you just have to kind of go with the symbol and ask the question. And I don't ever worry about asking questions. If people, if they think I'm grasping for questions or trying to get information, then I'm not the right intuitive for them, because I don't want to bring that sense of I need to prove something. I need to prove to you this is real. If I get into that, that's a lot of ego that comes into that. For me, some people, I think that's what they're supposed to be doing. Like that is their thing, is proving, that's what they're here for. I don't feel that is what I'm here for and what my abilities should be used for. I when that comes into it, I feel all of a sudden very tense, and I can feel myself getting into that ego place of I'm going to prove me right. I'm going to prove my guides right, and I can't get into that. So I really try to stay away from that. And if I feel like a client is going that direction, like wanting something from me or wanting me to say something specific, I will tell them, please don't do that. Please just pretend like everything I'm telling you is true. Afterwards, you can get off the phone with me and say, oh, that's all crap or whatever. But while you're with me, just pretend like everything I'm telling you is the truth and be open to the questions I ask, because that helps me to decipher the information and it helps me go in a direction. And it's because I don't have the context for people's lives. Now, when it's you have more of a context, and that's why I'm saying that your guides really know you. So trust that instinct of, if you ask the question, should I go out today? And you get a feeling of, you start to see, umbrellas and coats and hats, and you think, okay, if I go out, I need to make sure I'm ready for the weather because it's like it's going to rain, that kind of thing. It's like, your guides know you. So trust what they're giving you is for you personally. When you work with other people, it's different. It is you are kind of taking a risk, and you need to ask. Sometimes you get it wrong, sometimes you get it right. It's, and that is kind of the way it is. And sometimes you realize, oh, I don't think that's it. I think that we're talking about something else. One time I got my symbol for the law, and this woman was trying to figure out what, and I said it usually is for like a law, like a case or something to do with the law. And she said, well, a couple of years ago I had a case, and I thought, well, maybe that's it. And then later on in the conversation, it came out that her brother was a lawyer, and she was having issues with her brother, the lawyer. So that's what they were trying to show me. So sometimes it can reveal itself within the reading. If you're doing readings, if it's for you, trust it. Trust yourself to know. Okay? All right. So the next question is, what if I need an answer fast? There's a couple of things. You can either go to someone else because that's, sometimes you need to. But more than likely, your guides know that you'll need an answer quickly. And sometimes you might just be being impatient. You think you need it now, but you don't. So kind of make sure that you actually do need an answer quickly. Is it just you wanting an answer quickly? Because if that's the case, use a tool. Again, have a tool that you can use, either a secondary ability or, so if you're asking, I got this wedding invitation and I need to send it back right away. Should I go? Because I don't really know these people very well. Should I go? And you get a picture of a wedding dress, and you get a really kind of warm feeling and kind of a feeling of love and happiness. You get just kind of a feeling of joy kind of comes over you. Clearly your guides are saying, yeah, go for it. It's going to be nice. She'll wear a pretty dress. It'll be fun. You'll have a good time. So you can use those secondary abilities as they come along. Or you can use a tool, because a tool does give you an answer quickly. If it's a yes or no question, I do suggest the pendulum, because those are very good for yes or no questions. And that should do it. Okay, the next question is, how do I know who I'm talking to? And this one can be tricky. And again, there has to be an element of trust involved. It's very important for you to do anything that, any kind of prayer or any kind of little ceremony of protection that you need to do to allow yourself to be open. If that is something you need to do to allow yourself to be open, do that, because it's so important that you are open. However, if you're trying to speak to a relative or someone who has passed, and they start talking to you, and you don't feel like maybe they're expressing things your relative would have expressed, you're probably right that it may not be your relative, but it could be someone else related to you or someone else. And so that's when you ask for some kind of validation, or who are you? I don't think, it doesn't feel like, this person. So, tell me who you are. And you should get, some kind of validation, a feeling, a picture, something that may spark a memory. And so ask, basically, is what I'm trying to say. Ask who it is. If you feel like the person I asked for isn't who I think I have. And as far as guides, your guides will, if you have a picture in your mind of a certain energy that's coming to you, or a certain guide that's coming to you, hold on to that picture. That's how they want you to kind of think of them or see them. That's the physical form that they're giving you to think of them as. If a name comes to mind, use that name. What I've found, at least in the readings that I've done, is that names so much don't really matter to guides. They will give you a name if you ask for one, because we like to label everything, and they know that. But I've gotten so I kind of just recognize the energy, and you may get that too if you're an empath. If you feel energy that way, you're very sensitive. But if you need a name and you need to know what they look like, ask for it, and ask them to give you some other way of recognizing them. Maybe every time, if you're talking to your brother, maybe every time he comes in, you'll feel, a chill on your left shoulder, or, some kind of other sign that they can give you that they're here and this is who you're talking to. That's special, special to them. Usually if you just asked for any relative that would like to come in to speak to me, and you you feel like someone is there, a lot of times the first person you think of is the person who it is. They'll put thoughts in your mind, or if it's, you'll see, the relative's house and you'll think, oh, it's so and so, they'll give you something to let you know who it is. It's good to be able to know who you're contacting, just because you can call them in, and usually that's the person that comes forward. But sometimes, just like us, they're not available, or they can't come in at this moment, so they might send someone else, or someone else might come in instead because they see it as an opportunity to come in. The biggest thing about this is to be open, because when you're open, you're allowing not only the spirit or the person to come in, but you're allowing the information to come in. And they will give you the information because they want you to know who they are too. They want you to know what they're about. So look for those things, and look for the little things that you may see over and over again, or little things you may feel over and over again, because those may be very specific to that guide or specific to that person. So just be aware of that. Take note of it. If every time this, one energy enters, you see, red circles, just know that that's kind of their sign of like, I'm here. Or you feel kind of a tightness in the chest or something like that, know that that's, the person that is coming in. So be aware of those repeating signs and symbols that happen, that kind of allow you to recognize a spirit or a guide that comes in. Okay? Okay, so the question is, will my guides always answer me? And the answer to that is yes, they will. They will always answer you. Now, how you receive the message and when you receive the message can be not right when you ask the question. It depends on what your abilities are, because sometimes if you're something like a knower, and you get more physical signs, or people, your guides actually speaking to people and they speak to you, they'll inspire other people to talk to you. As a knower, you're kind of, you're meant to ask a question or ask for your guide's help, and then be alert, be aware of the things around you. And that goes for really for any of us. But if you're, clairvoyant, be aware of things that may pop into your head, things that may, words that may pop into your mind, sense that may come to you. As a feeler, the feelings that come over you, pay attention to them. And it can be a feeling like, I feel like, for whatever reason, I just feel like I should go for a walk today. And then on that walk, you may see something. So be alert. Be alert in every sense of the word as soon as you ask your guides a question. And again, I can't stress this enough. Be open. Be open to whatever comes in. Be open to that. It may come through another person. If you're looking for a house, you may run into somebody who is an old friend and now they're a real estate agent. Those kinds of coincidences tend to happen because you've asked the question and maybe they did send you a message, but you missed it. They will find a way to get it to you. So yes, your guides will always answer you. Be aware too that sometimes the answer could be no. So, if you're asking something like, should I move right now? And you get a feeling of, kind of dread or something that comes over you, take that as a no. Sometimes it will be no, even though you feel like, and you always have free will. You always have free will. So you can, you can go against what your guides advise. You can. And if you do, and they've given you that information, they're not just going to be like, well, then forget it. They will still help you along the way, and they'll still try to make it as positive an experience or as much of a learning experience as possible. So know that sometimes the answer is no, and you can still make a different decision, but just be very open and take what you get. Take what you get, and really sit with it and say, just tell your guides thank you and build that communication. Okay, so this is more about spirits on the other side. Will the spirit I'm trying to speak to always come through? And for that, the question could be yes and no. I mean, sometimes, most of the time, they will come. Sometimes, like I explained, sometimes there's just a reason they can't. I had a recent reading where I just felt like I couldn't. I got the person's guides. I didn't get them, and the reason was because they had just arrived. You know, they hadn't been there very long, and they were going through their life and kind of working through it, kind of doing their life review with some of their guides. And so I felt like I got information about them, but I didn't get them. And it was just different. But I respected that, and I think that's the most important thing is. If you don't, there's a good reason. There's usually a good reason. They're doing things because they're not just sitting up there waiting for someone to contact them. They're busy. They have things to do, just like we do here. So just know that that's part of the expectation when you deal with this kind of stuff. Is that sometimes when you're trying to connect with spirit, it either you can have an off day and not quite connect, or they can be busy, or they can be doing something else. If that is the case, you can always ask too, when is a better time? When should I call back? Basically, when should I call back? And you will get an answer. You'll feel like, okay, well, I'm feeling like this evening, so I'll try this evening. Or just try again at another time, because it just may be that the situation is not quite right. So, and I will tell you one thing that could be, particularly for spirits that haven't been gone very long, a lot of times nighttime is the best time because they use energy. And if the lights are all on, all the electricity is kind of on, they can draw from that to connect with you. So that may be something to think about. You know, if you're working in the daytime, you're just not getting it, try the nighttime, because that might be just better for them energetically. It just is better. So it's something to think about, something to take into consideration when you're doing this, okay? Okay, so the question is, what if I think I'm a seer, but I have more feelings when I begin to try to communicate? There can be a couple of things going on. You may have equal abilities, like if you saw all the traits of a seer and you think that is me, that is totally me. It could be that you have that ability, but you also have an equal ability as an empath. I feel like my first ability is an empath, but I feel like now, especially, my clairvoyant and clairaudient skills are about the same, because I get them in conjunction with each other all the time. And so there may be something like that happening where you have kind of equal abilities. You can have more than one. And by the time you're done with or not done, I shouldn't say done, but by the time you've been doing this for a long time, you may find that you're getting all kinds of different messages in different ways. And that's the hope, you know, is that you kind of turn on all of these different parts of you so that spirit has so many access points and they can really talk to you anytime. But what you're trying to do is really kind of build up these abilities, and it's like exercising muscles is what you're doing, and you're kind of turning these things on so you can recognize them. So that's great. You can, you know, maybe you can go over it again and think, well, maybe I was wrong. Maybe I'm a feeler. That's okay too. That can be the case, but more than likely, you've kind of looked at the traits and pinpointed what your primary ability is, and you either have a very strong secondary ability, or they're equal. You know, they can be equal, even though you didn't catch it when you start. You know, again, you're allowing things to come in a way maybe you haven't before, and so you do start to get feelings, and you realize, oh, okay, I feel that. I'm not getting pictures like I thought I would, but that's okay. It doesn't mean you stop looking for pictures or you stop asking for those things. It just means that you have another strong ability that you can rely on that can validate your primary ability. Okay, so the last question is, can anyone do this as a career? I mean, yes and no. So I think anybody has the ability to get their abilities to a point where you can read for other people. I believe that. Some people don't. Some people think you have to be born with something. I believe that you can get, even if you're really, really, it takes you a really long time. I feel like you can still do that. But what I would say is that not everybody is cut out for the responsibility of being a reader. There is a very heavy responsibility that comes along with it. You feel very, when you first start reading, especially, you feel very, very responsible for the outcomes of things. You feel like if you've said something is going to happen, it has to happen. You kind of, as you go, you kind of have to let go of that, because sometimes you're going to be wrong, and some people don't like, they don't like the thought of that, or they don't want to take the chance of being wrong. So I feel like it is a very personal choice, and really the only way to figure it out is to do it, to try it. I read for my family and friends for ages before I ever did this. I never saw myself doing this, like a career. I never saw it. So that's how good I am. But I didn't. I didn't until this, the world changed. Things were shifting and changing, and all of this spirit energy is coming into the world at this time, and it just kind of called me. That can happen. But the best way to find out is to do it. And then ask your guides for guidance. If you feel like you kind of enjoy aspects of it, but not everything, maybe there's something that else you can do, or maybe there's something else you're supposed to be doing. It doesn't feel quite right. So, the answer is yes, anybody can physically do it. I believe they can actually do it. But whether it's right for you, your personality is something else. It did take me a while to kind of let go of the reading once I was done. I kind of there's a real element of trust there. There really is. You have to trust what you're getting, trust the messages you're getting, trust your guides, trust their guides. There is a huge element of trust. And so if you have issues with trust, or you feel like you couldn't do that, then it may not be right as a career, and that's okay. These classes are just to start you off, or to enhance the abilities you already know you have, or to, if you want to do this for a living, it's to teach you how. But basically, what I've given you in these 3 classes is exactly what you need to get started. You may refer back to this video the most, because it has the questions that may come up for you as you start to do this. But the biggest advice I can give you is to be open, to be patient. And when I say open, I really mean open. Allowing things to come in. Allow yourself to feel them. And then trusting it once you get it. That is a hard thing to do. If there is that part of you that's like, I don't want to be made a fool of, or, I don't want to be conned or fooled, try to let that go, because there is an element of faith involved in this. It's just the way that it is, because we are physical beings and they're spirit beings. So they're speaking with you and communicating with you in a way that people don't normally communicate. They're not just talking. I will tell you that I consider myself very, very sensitive. I've gotten, many predictions right, for both privately and private readings, and also publicly. But I've only seen with my own eyes a quote unquote spirit or quote unquote ghost once. once in my life. I've only heard angels with my own physical ears once that I can remember. And I've only heard a message with my own physical ears once. Everything else has been internal. And so try to, as you go through this process, try to, opening up means also kind of letting go of expectations, the way you think it should feel. Because it may feel completely different than what I'm describing, but if you're allowing and you're opening up, like for example, you may feel things in certain, like if you're really in touch with your chakras, you might feel things in certain chakras. That may happen. So, I'm not as connected with that. So you may start feeling things in your third eye or in your heart chakra. So, be open and kind of let go of expectations as to what it should feel like, because I promise you, it's very subtle and it will be very personal to you. Okay? Guys, I wish you all the best and all the luck in the world in getting to know your own guides, getting to know the spirit realm, getting ready to have some amazing, wonderful, life-changing experiences. And I'm so thankful that I could be a part of this journey for you. If you have some amazing experiences, please share them with me. I would love to know. Just write me at intuitiview@gmail.com. If you want to leave any kind of testimonial, do that. And if there's anything that you felt like it wasn't clear, or I didn't understand, or nothing worked at all, you can write to me about that as well, and I'll try to think of some ways to correct it, or some ways to add on to, maybe with another class, the things that may be missing. But I am so thankful for this, and I'm so grateful for the opportunity to be able to share this. And I feel it's part of my why this has even happened to me, why I even got the messages I got to start my YouTube channel. I feel like this is something that Spirit was working on me to do. And so I hope that the classes are very, very helpful to you going forward. All of the classes are channeled. They're through, sometimes my words get tongue-tied, but the actual information in them is from my guides. The way that they're laid out is from my guides. And so I want to thank my guides because it's their information. And I want to thank you for allowing me to be part of this and trusting me to be part of this wonderful journey with you. All right? Okay, everybody, take care. Bye.